A lot's happened since yesterday!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another beautiful episode of A Lot's Happened Since Yesterday. Ralph is making faces already. That's how amazed he is at the rockingness that is this episode. It's amazing. Look at him. He's so excited. Anyways, today we have pretty cool episode for you. We're going to get into some really big thought experiments because who we have today is a man by the name of John Oberg. John, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, guys. Stoked to be here.
Excellent, dude. John.
What's up, John? What were you going to say? Go ahead. I don't know.
Doesn't matter to me, dude.
I need to stop cutting people off, dude. I need to learn. Okay, go ahead.
If you think I'm cutting that out.
I don't do it to my pets. Okay, that's all that matters.
Good.
He's in the right step.
Or else I have to be doing some wrist slapping here.
No, I don't doubt it. Johnny, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and introduce our guest, and then I'll talk to him for a little bit.
John is an animal rights advocate. Is that the correct term? I mean, how does that term go?
I mean, there's different variations on the phrase. Animal protection advocate, animal defender. If you want to get a little bit fun with the terminology, whatever you feel comfortable with.
But
I work to protect animals.
But you also do. You're also a social media professional as well, and you combine the two using your expertise in social media to get the word out for animal advocacy. The word I cannot speak. Correct?
Correct. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Over the years, I've just focused on building up my social media presence to really do the best I can for animals. Yep.
Nice.
Wow.
So what we're going to get into today is we're going to get into all that. And I'm going to be honest, I'm still a meat eater. But what I want to do is I need to learn because I have been trying to like understand everything, knock on wood, understand everything that I don't know. Does that make sense? I mean, that was the dumbest statement I could ever think of, but
yeah,
you know,
he needs to be schooled.
I do. I hear, and I've picked and chosen what I've known. But the one thing I think we can all agree on is what?
It's nice to be honest, isn't it? Doesn't it feel good to just let it out?
I let it out, dude. I really did. But here's the thing, like I am the normal person, and like I will say, I despise the idea of factory farming. I despise the idea of cruelty to animals. But I kind of want a burger, you know, and so I have to. I do have trouble reconciling those two things. So I'm excited that John's on here because he has those expertise and he's willing to answer these questions.
Totally. John, I've seen some of John's videos and he's totally like kicked back. He's a chill guy. He's not judgmental. And my wife turned him on to me. And this is a funny story that I had to share. I'm talking to my wife this morning. And I'm like, you know, babe, John's coming on today. And I'm like, I'm pumped. You know, this is going to be cool. It's going to be fun. And I look at her and I go, so is there anything that you want me to ask him? Like a question that you want me to ask John? Because she looks up to you, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking maybe there's something she wants me to ask you. And she just turns around, she looks at me, she goes, what questions do I need to ask John? I already know everything about this. I'm one of them. And I was like, what the heck? I'm like, is this like a cult or something? I just thought it was hilarious. She's all, I'm one of them. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I just slowly backed up.
I'm glad that via me, you can learn new things about your wife. That's great.
No, I respect the two of you so much. I'm not going to lie, John. I don't eat meat every day, but I do on occasion. And that's something, you know, I'm trying to get away from, but it's almost like a drug, bro. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I think the way they process the food, and they have been since like 1950, I think it was, all the processing that they put into it, all the chemicals, all the sugar, I think they addicted us like crack, you know what I mean, to the meat products. So I don't know what your thoughts about that are. You know?
Yeah, well, I'm super stoked to be talking to both of you. You know, most of the times when I do like podcast interviews and stuff, I'm talking to other vegans, other vegan activists, and that's fun and all, and I enjoy that. but I really do enjoy speaking to people who aren't already haven't already opted into this lifestyle. I think that as advocates like myself, animal protection advocates, it's super important for us to reach out to people who aren't already thinking like us. Like, what's the whole point of having a little bubble? We need all of society to adopt this way of living and thinking. And fortunately, it doesn't require adopting a new radical worldview. I mean, I think that both of you in the first 5 minutes of this podcast have already started kind of making the case that you both agree with me and you both don't want to support animal cruelty. And so me in my work is really to get both of you, but also all of society who currently eats meat, which is about 95% of society, to really understand that they don't need to continue eating animals, because in 2020 and beyond, it's significantly easier than ever to eat in a way that matches these ethics that we already have.
Now, is the biggest issue right now, you would say the biggest enemy you guys have or your cause has right now would be the factory farms, right?
Yeah. So, I don't like to phrase things like, enemies and, the good side and the evil side. Yeah, because I think that almost everyone is already on the same page. Americans, people, global citizens, we don't want to support animal cruelty. We all check no on that box. None of us are like, oh yeah, animal cruelty, I'm fine with it. Yeah. It's one of the few things that essentially all people agree on. It's that animals deserve to live lives of compassion and happiness and joy, and don't deserve to unnecessarily suffer. Now, in the way that you frame the question, I will say that the biggest problem that animals face is the fact that they are farmed for their meat and their the products from their bodies. So mainly meat, milk, and eggs are the driving factors. Now, I'm not huge on numbers because I don't want to overwhelm people, but I think it's really important for your viewers to understand, and your viewers and listeners to understand the fact that 99% of animals that are killed in the United States every single year are animals that are killed for food. So that 1%, that tiny sliver of the pie, is all cats and dogs killed in shelters, all mice killed in laboratories, all animals hunted in the wild. So to give you an idea of the scale of the problem, the vast majority of animals that are being killed out there are animals that are being raised for food. And then to give you one more statistic, of that 99% of animals that are killed, the farm animals, which are roughly 9 or 10 billion animals every single year in the US alone, about 99% of those animals are factory farmed, and they are being raised and bred in conditions that look more like prisons than they do what people think of as farms. And the meat industry has done a fantastic job over the last 70 or 80 years of getting people to not know this. They've done a really good job of brainwashing people, myself included, until I finally learned that these farm animals live happy lives, when in reality, they live lives of absolute depravity, essentially from birth to death.
So when did you become a vegan?
So I became vegan 11 years ago, and it was the best decision I've ever made. I essentially learned how farm animals are being, I went vegetarian based on principle. And I thought, you know what? I like animals, and, I do what I can to help them. My mom and I did like animal rescue work, and, we did protests for animals. But I always ate animals. I didn't think about it. And then one day I made the connection. Hey, you know what? If I like animals and consider myself an animal lover, maybe I shouldn't also be eating them. I didn't know how animals being treated. I didn't know about those 99% stats. I just kind of went vegetarian on principle. Then about 10 months into my vegetarianism, I watched a film called Earthlings. And your viewers out there should really check out this film.
Earthlings, like just human being kind of earthling?
Yes,
Okay.
Earthlings. So it's
I'll put
narrated
up
by
the link on here so we can.
Excellent. I think there's a website called watchearthlings.com, but I don't know if that website still exists.
Okay.
If not, you can find it online somewhere.
Okay.
It's a really powerful documentary, actually narrated by Joaquin Phoenix, who luckily has recently come back onto the stage.
Yep.
Nice.
And
My wife loves him more than she loves me. Trust me.
Good.
I'll
And
pass.
so, yeah. So I watched this film and I learned how farm animals are being treated. I learned that they aren't just living good lives somewhere and have one bad day. They are essentially suffering their entire existence. So I thought, you know what? I think it's time for me to go vegan. Did that. Honestly, guys, I did it and I thought maybe this will last a month or two. We'll see how it goes. But it's lasted over 11 years now,
Holy crap.
and it will never change for the rest of my life. So best decision I've ever made.
That's cool, man. I don't know how you do it, brother. You've got the my wife. So my wife is she's petite. You know, she on most days she weighs about 102 pounds or something like that. So she's this petite little thing. She's Native American from the Navajo tribe, and she's never been into eating meat. She's always thought it was disgusting. She's always loved animals since she was a little girl, and she used to cry when they used to make her eat the meat at the table. So it's like almost like a horror story.
Holy crap! No wonder she's vegan. Jesus.
I mean, she's just a special kind of person, and I do think it takes a special kind of person. So the question I have to ask you, and John, trust me, I'm an animal lover just like you. I'm not as strong as you and my wife. Sometimes meat is my kryptonite, and I'm ashamed of myself for that. And hopefully one of these days I can be as strong as you guys and take it to the next level. I did for a little while, but I kept falling off the wagon. So anyways, but there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to being a vegan or a vegetarian or a pescatarian or whatever you think is the best way to go. Most
That's a lot of Aryans that I have no idea what you're
well,
talking
most
about.
purists want to believe that veganism is the way to go. So and I believe that they're probably correct about that. However, there are a lot of other thoughts that people have in regard to this matter. And one of them is the animals. When you look to the animals themselves, you see certain patterns that they have in their diets. Whether you be talking about dinosaurs, or you're talking about just animals that we're, familiar with, and that have been around for a long time. There are three different forms, right? The ones that exclusively eat plants are herbivores, I believe. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the animals that eat only meat are carnivores, right? And then animals that eat both meat and plants are known as omnivores, right? So basically they've got they're like broken into three different categories. I gotta know, bro. Do you think that that's possibly the way it is for mankind, for humans?
Yeah, Ralph. So let me go back to something you said earlier, and that's you're complimenting Lisa, your wife, and I on the idea that we are like special people. We're a special kind of people, and I gotta stop you there because I do not believe that we are special cases. I believe that essentially everyone already believes this. Everyone already believes that animals shouldn't be treated badly. It's just simply making a simple decision at a grocery store. It's choosing one thing off a shelf instead of another. When you go to a restaurant, it's choosing one thing off a menu instead of another. The sacrifice really isn't there. It really isn't a sacrifice. And I thought it was going to be a sacrifice before I did it. And then I very quickly realized, wow, this is now second nature. And wow, this is so easy. And so I think that it's really important to go into this conversation with your listeners understanding that becoming vegan does not require some huge life shift where you need to adopt a new radical worldview and completely change everything that you've known. It is so much simpler than that. So I want to make sure everybody knows that, I'm not asking people to go and, get a degree in rocket science. It's pretty easy, and it's way easier in 2020 than it ever has been. So I definitely wanted to mention that fact. And then also to answer your question about whether we are omnivores, carnivores, or herbivores, I would say that the science is kind of out on that. But what I will say is that it is in 2020, with the resources that humans have, it is entirely possible to be an herbivore, to eat plant-based food. And for a long time, there are a lot of skeptics saying, oh, you couldn't get enough protein, you can't be healthy. But all of those myths have been busted. We now know that to be vegan, you aren't just able to survive, you're able to thrive. And there's actually a really fantastic film called The Game Changers, which I also recommend everybody check out. It's on Netflix. If you don't have Netflix, just find it somewhere else. It's an amazing film. It will show you that as a vegan, you don't just survive, you thrive. And it can take your physical fitness to peaks that you never even imagined. So despite whatever we ate as cave people, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago, it doesn't even matter, because in today's world, we are able to eat plant-based food and not just survive, but actually kick ass.
And that's actually a really, if you think about it, because I never really thought about it this way, but with the technology we have, it's it's pretty miraculous that we have the ability to choose now. That alone, for you personally, is it all or none?
So for me, it's I'm vegan, and so I don't want to eat non-vegan food. But to your listeners and to anybody out there who consider themselves people who do care about animals,
right,
or whatever reason you want to try to eat more vegan food, but a lot of people out there don't want to hurt animals. It's not all or nothing. Cutting back on your meat consumption can make a really big difference.
Right.
And honestly, most vegetarians and vegans I know started out kind of gradually cutting out meat from their diet.
Right.
And so, and almost all vegans I know did not go vegan overnight. They went gradually. And so I definitely applaud those members of your audience and beyond who are interested in eating more plant-based food or becoming vegan one day, who go at it at a way that is sustainable to them.
Yeah.
And sustainability is super important. Like, what's the point of being vegan for 2 months or 2 years and then going back to being a meat eater the rest of your life?
Right.
You got to do it so that it works for you in the long term.
And the main issue with your stance, and I'm sure a lot of people's, it would be my stance, is the way the animals are treated above anything else. Would you say that as well? Because there is gray areas that would need to be addressed. Like, I have a personal friend who can't. She was, to quote Lisa, she was one of you guys. She was one of them. She was all about the safety of animals. She was full vegan. She was posting. Shout out to Marina, I love you, girl. But she got diagnosed, and her doctor basically said, unless you start eating meat, you're going to die. Her body stopped producing plant or processing plant proteins, and she had to make the decision to start eating meat again. Now, when I think about stuff like that and go, well, that gray area is a terrible thing, but at the end of the day, if everybody started just by nature backing off, and Ralph mentioned, we don't need to eat meat every fucking meal. We don't. It doesn't have to happen that way. If you started off with that alone, the need for factory farmings would diminish exponentially, because what do we need all that supply for? Really, this factory farming is a direct result of greed. Would you not say that? We don't need 37 billion chicken wings at 2 in the fucking morning. You need food. It's sustenance. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's profits that have driven this the rise of factory farming. So factory farming started around World War II, shortly after World War II. and just became the norm. And
why did it start then? Was
unfortunately,
there a reason, or is it just in enterprise?
I believe it started because we looked to ways to feed massive numbers of people as efficiently as possible. And I will say that factory farming, despite being extremely cruel, is more efficient.
Right.
Yes, it's more efficient to keep more animals in a smaller amount of space and to give them the least amount of care you can get away with while still making a profit and making the profits that you want to make. But with efficiency comes a lot of cruelty, and a lot of cruelty that the average person would say, wow, I do not want to support. If your viewers and your listeners were to spend 5 minutes in a factory farm, they would be absolutely flabbergasted at what these animals have to endure from birth to death. And this is a result of chasing after profits. It's a result of prioritizing profits over the welfare of animals. And what we find every single year is that these factory farms don't prioritize animal welfare, because why would they?
It's not profitable.
Animals are the victims, and unfortunately, the unwitting people out there who are making this happen are the people who are supporting this. You know, demand doesn't, or supply doesn't just exist, right? It exists as a result of demand. And why is factory farming existing? Because 95% of the population out there are eating animals just about every single day. And so we are all kind of paying into a system that we don't want to support. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah.
We are actively paying someone, we're voting against the interests that we have and against the beliefs that we have. We each don't want these animals to suffer unnecessarily, but we're making it happen. So there's this weird dichotomy there, which leads to a lot of cognitive dissonance. And so we, as members of society who vote with our dollar, need to take a step back and ask yourself, okay, look, I've been on this planet for 20, 30, 60, 80 years, and I've been living a certain way. This way has been causing a lot of unnecessary suffering. That's okay, because today is a new day. I've learned this horrible fact, and I've learned that I have been participating in this. But moving forward, I have the ability to participate in this market in a way that reflects the values that I have. It reflects my compassion for animals. And you don't even need to be some crazy animal lover. If you just don't want animals to unnecessarily suffer, you just change your ways. Yeah. It's not that complex. And if there's one thing, again, your audience needs to understand is that, you know, I'm not asking you guys to adopt some radical new worldview here. It's simply eating in a way that is aligned with these values that we already have.
And logically, in that sense, even the smallest change would make an exponential difference. So it really doesn't make sense not to at least try.
Yeah, I think we should just adopt my my wife Lisa's idea, and that's and she actually presented that to the Indian community and the tribe members that she works for at her job, and at San Manuel Casino, because she works directly for the tribal members. And she actually wanted to see if they would set up a meatless Mondays at their cafeteria for their employees. So I thought that was really cool. And I'm like, yeah, man, wouldn't it be cool if everybody just adopted that idea? I mean, what do you think about that, John? Is it cool to start slow? You know?
Heck yeah, it is cool to start slow. Okay. I think that it's really important for society to gradually shift in this direction in a way that is sustainable for them. And Meatless Mondays is an amazing transitionary tool. It is, for those listening who aren't familiar with the concept, it's essentially starting out your week on Mondays going meat-free. So eating vegetarian food as opposed to food with meat, which, you know, most meals consist of. at least in the United States. And so it's a really nice way to start the week off on a good foot. And it's a really simple ask. And it's something that I think most people, unless, you have very, very strange circumstances, I think that the vast majority of people can wrap their head around and say, you know what, that's not that big of a sacrifice. I can give it a shot. And again, many of the vegans I know out there actually got their start doing Meatless Monday.
Right on. Very cool. Let me ask you this. What are your go-tos when it comes to food?
So I eat essentially the same food that meat eaters eat. I just eat it in plant-based form. So I eat, Mediterranean, Thai, Mexican, Chinese, Indian, traditional American food. I just eat it in plant-based form. Burgers, hot dogs, sausages, everything that you can think of, I eat in plant-based form. So again, in 2020, it's easier than ever to find all these foods. And in the last 2 or 3 years alone, the game has been absolutely changing. There are such great plant-based cheeses on the market, egg substitutes, and you can basically fry an egg now with like the Just Egg. There's so many great new vegan meats out there. Beyond Meat is changing the game. The Impossible Whopper of Burger King has changed things. In fact, a friend of mine from high school just reached out to me today, and he said, I'm going vegan. And I said, are you serious? You're really going vegan? And he said, yeah, you know what did it for me? The Impossible Whopper. So to have people understand the ability that you don't have to go to the far edge of your city to find vegan food. It's at every corner.
What was the slogan that Burger King had? I don't remember, but I'm just curious because maybe it could connect the dots on this one. That's awesome. That's an awesome story. Yeah, no, I tried the Carl's Jr. I can't. What's it called?
Impossible or Beyond?
No, they had Beyond.
I think it's Beyond. Yeah, and I actually really liked it. I actually thought it was one of the closer ones. And I know that, and me and Cody talked about this earlier. We had a conversation, obviously, and it was funny because we were like, you know what, dude? He's all it's not the same, and I'm just like, yeah, but some of them, dude, you probably haven't tried all the.
100%. I have not tried that shit. Like I tried vegan stuff like in the 90s.
My wife puts on like a freaking suit. She puts on like a special headdress and she's like marching with like, you know what I mean? She's just out there. Every Black Friday, man, she makes me go out there with her. No, I love her. I support everything about that. That's funny though. I got to ask you, what is it exactly? Because a lot of people that become vegans do it for health reasons. And there's some people that will tell you straight to your face. They're not going to lie to you for a second. They're like, I'm doing it for health reasons, man. I don't really care about that. You know what I mean? So what do you think? Is it like, because that brings the question to my mind is like on a moral level, I respect you guys because you guys have respect for life at the end of the day. That's what it boils down to. And it's huge because most people just consider the animal population on the bottom of the food chain. You know what I mean? And it's natural for them, normal for them. It's you know what I mean? It's like,
you know what? I want to actually take that question a little deeper, Ralph. Because if it
I'm in trouble.
Oh, a little bit. No, only because of this. No, only because of this. Is it the life or is the treatment of the life? And this is why I say that, because if it's the life, if it's just life, then where does that line get drawn? You know, I mean, at what animal do you stop giving a crap about, that kind of thing? Or is it you know what I mean? Because like some people go, I won't kill a pig because of reasons, but I'll throw a damn rat trap out in my house in a heartbeat. And even growing up for me, I was like, it's a life. If you kill a cow, if you kill a fly, if you kill a fish, you're killing something, So if you're doing it strictly for the life, then where's the line drawn?
Jean-Claude Van Damme was quoted in a video saying that he wouldn't need anything with eyes, because eyes are basically the reflections of the soul, or mirror to the
That's
soul,
deep as
whatever
shit,
it is.
dude.
You
That's
know.
That's straight up Zen.
Jean-Claude Van Damme is cool.
That makes me want to dip my hands in glass and go to Bloodsport, man.
I
Sorry.
love how deep we're getting, guys. This is good. This is good.
Sorry,
So,
we get on tangents, dude.
that's
Sorry,
good.
John. Go for it. It's all you,
Let's
bro.
go on all the tangents you want. This is great.
It's
So-
all you, brother.
So if we want to talk philosophically, guys, I believe that any animal that is sentient, which means that they feel pain, deserves our consideration. And that includes farm animals. It doesn't just include cats and dogs who we share our homes with. It includes other animals like mice, like deer, like other wild animals, and like chickens, pigs, cows, and now we have found fish. So these animals that feel pain are deserving of our compassion and our consideration.
Sorry. Well, first of all, I apologize for cutting you off, John. I just wanted to ask you, since you brought up fish, what about, because at one point I was basically a pescatarian.
What is a pescatarian? Because I have no idea what that means.
Well, mostly fish-based products, and a lot of beans, a lot of rice.
A pescatarian is basically a vegetarian who also eats fish.
Right.
Okay.
I did eat some dairy, and I know that vegans don't, they don't agree with that, and I understand why. But we don't have to get into that right now. We can get into that another time. Right. And obviously, John, would love to have you back at some point, because this is an ongoing thing, and we love topics like this. But my point is that I used to eat that, and I mainly ate shellfish. And a lot of people argue that lobsters do not have a central nervous system. So basically, they don't feel pain. What are your thoughts on that?
So I know that was a line of thinking for a long time, but science has really started to show that is an unfortunate falsehood. Okay. Trust me, I wish that lobsters did not feel pain, but science shows that they do. And unfortunately, this old line of thinking has led to society basically just think that ignorance is bliss, and they just say, oh, I'm sure the lobsters don't feel pain. And then as somebody just dunks the lobster in the boiling water, they say, oh, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure they're not feeling pain. But science unfortunately shows that they do. And if you've ever been burned, you understand just how painful that is. Now imagine being completely submerged in that. And while we're on this topic, guys, so my goal is not to just shock and awe people. The goal is to be honest about how animals are being treated. Something that I want you guys to know is that a significant portion of the animals being raised on these factory farms, something like between 5 and 10% of chickens, actually, when they are at the slaughterhouse, they go along a line where they have somebody who essentially grabs their head and slits their throat. That is somebody's full-time job. They're called the throat slitter. Now, unfortunately, they are not. Yes, and this is another reason that farm animals are veganism is the answer, because the way these experiences workers is just unbelievable. But for the throat slitter, as bad as that job is, they're also not perfect at their job. So a lot of these animals still maintain consciousness. And the next stage after throat slitting is being dunked into boiling water. And it takes 39 seconds for a chicken to die once they've been dunked into this boiling water. And so I want your viewers and listeners out there to imagine how excruciating that is. And now, while I'm telling you this, you might be feeling powerless, but I want to tell you, you are not powerless. Each American eats on average about 30 chickens every single year. That's 30 chickens. And if you take 5 or 10% of 30 chickens, that is 1 or 2 or 3 chickens every single year that are being boiled alive because of the food choices that you are making. And before today, 99.9% chance you did not know this fact.
No.
But you know this fact now. So moving forward, think about how the food that you choose to put on your plate, like chicken wings, for example, are leading to extreme suffering that you would never want to endure yourself. You would never want the cat or dog you share your home with to endure. And so, taking that line of thinking to its logical conclusion, you don't want these chickens to suffer this way either. So simply align your eating behavior with these beliefs that you already have, guys.
That statistic is absolutely insane, dude.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm curious though, bro. You have pets, right?
Yeah.
How many pets do you have, and what are they?
My girlfriend and I have 2 dogs.
2 dogs.
Yep. One is like a Doberman mix, and one is a Hound mix. And both fairly mutt-ish, but they are living good lives.
Right on. So what do you think about the Yulin Festival? I mean, obviously, you don't feel good about it.
Yeah, so...
But no.
So for the viewers...
Sacrilege! No, I'm just kidding. But...
So for the viewers and listeners out there who aren't familiar with that festival, it is a festival in China where it's a dog meat festival. So people go there and eat dog meat. And it has caused a lot of outrage, not just in the animal advocacy community, but in society as a whole, because we place a lot of value on the lives of dogs, and the thought that these dogs are being bred and grown in these tiny little cages and suffering for weeks, months, years on end before they're slaughtered in just absolutely egregious ways and then eaten. It's so mind-boggling to so many people. But that being said, I want everyone to think about the fact that if that outrages you, there's absolutely no reason that your outrage should stop there. I was asked earlier about the question about where does the line stop? And to me, the line stops at animals that stop. To me, the line stops at animals that don't feel pain. And the line should not stop after dogs and then start before chickens or pigs or cows or fish. And so if you don't want these animals to endure the suffering and cruelty that these dogs at a festival like Yulin experience, you have the power to say, okay, I'm not going to subject these other animals because they are equally worthy of our consideration. We shouldn't have a mindset that cats and dogs, their suffering matters, but the suffering of other animals don't matter just because the way that I've been growing up and living over the course of my life goes against that. We should really push ourselves out of our comfort zone and understand that we, as individuals who care about the suffering of others, should include cats, dogs, but also pigs, chickens, cows, fish, and other animals if these animals feel pain.
Yeah.
Okay.
That seems like common sense to, when you lay it out like that, you go, oh yeah, you should. When I'm the one, I don't think like that usually. Like my brain doesn't grasp that, but when you say it like that, it's like, well, yeah, why shouldn't we try at least help? I mean, there's no reason to allow suffering if we can stop it by simply not contributing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's again, it's not, we can all sit here and listen to the logical argument and we could say, okay, that's cool. I'm convinced logically that veganism is the right answer. That doesn't mean I'm going to do anything about it. But for the listeners out there who hear what I'm saying and what the three of us are talking about and are on the same page, understand that to go from agreeing that this is the right argument to actually changing your way of eating, the line there is not that long. It is pretty simple. Next time you go to a Burger King, order the Impossible Whopper. Next time you go to the grocery store, go to maybe the vegan section. Or next time you are out with some friends and you notice a vegan option on the menu at a restaurant, choose that vegan option. I'm not saying, hey, you have to go full vegan after this podcast. I'm saying give it a shot because you're going to find that it's easy, it's fulfilling, and it's matching the ethics that you already have.
Yeah, but John, what if you only got $1.95 on you, bro? Vegan
Go
food is
buy a
expensive.
can of black beans.
There you go, brother. Can of black beans. Can of black beans and some Tabasco. You're good to go.
No,
there,
that is in all reality. I'm joking, of course, but in all reality, some people do make the argument that being vegan is very expensive. You know what I mean? And for those who don't make quite as much as others, I think that has become a part of the issue for them. Buying junk and, you know, all this stuff that's, you know, really like just they put a bunch of preservatives in it to keep it, you know, from going bad. And you got a Twinkie will last you for the rest of your life and your kids' lives. And,
what about that McDonald's burger that lasted like 50 years
Oh,
and is
yeah,
still
yeah,
on
it was
display and shit?
Yeah,
Still
I
on
think it's in
display.
Iceland, right?
Yeah, something like
Still
that.
on display. Yeah.
So I mean, you know what I mean? That there's something that raises an eyebrow, and I mean, I'm gonna be straight up honest, man. Every once in a while, I'll go to Food for Less, but I won't find any of the stuff that I want in there. You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of like, okay, I kind of see. Go to Stater Brothers or Trader Joe's, or you go to Sprouts, and now everything that you're looking for to supplement meat that is really good and really tasty and makes you feel comfortable, because I think it's more of a mind thing than anything else. That stuff is not accessible to at these lower end supermarkets and grocery stores. So I think that is kind of part of the problem. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Ralph, that's a good question because accessibility is extremely important. And I certainly don't want to understate the importance of taking that into consideration because not everybody can afford more expensive food. So some plant-based food is more expensive. I'm not going to lie, that's a fact. I will say that over time, prices have come down. The price of a veggie burger today in 2020 is cheaper than it was when I went vegan in 2009. And so the prices are evening out over time. And part of that is because of demand. Demand has been increasing a lot. A lot of people are going vegan and eating more vegan food. I mean, Burger King wouldn't be carrying the Impossible Whopper if the demand wasn't there. And so as demand has been increasing, so has been accessibility to food that has been actually going down in price over time. But also, if you want to eat the exact same foods that you've been eating, like hot dogs, sausages, burgers, mac and cheese, that sort of thing, yes, the food is slightly more expensive and a little bit less accessible. But if you also want to eat other kinds of food that isn't necessarily the exact same food that you've been eating, like if you want to eat more Thai or Indian or Mexican food, cans of beans, tortillas, these things are cheap and they are accidentally vegan. The amount of accidentally vegan food out there is huge, absolutely huge. And so you can kind of have it both ways.
I'm just waiting for a good vegan pizza and then maybe I'll be sold.
Dude, I'm sorry. A cauliflower crust pizza is pretty baller, man.
What?
Well, you know what? I find good vegan pizza all over the place. I'll go to like regular pizza chains and the dough is essentially always vegan. And so you just get it without cheese and you get vegetables on it instead. And you know what? I thought, oh, wow.
Did he really say without cheese?
Yes. But you know what? Look, guys, hear me out, okay? I thought if I have a cheeseless pizza, it's going to taste terrible. But you know what? I tasted the sauce more. I tasted the vegetables more. and I tasted the plant-based sausage more, and I actually enjoyed it just the same. I just found more joy in those other ingredients. But on that note, I also want to say there's a ton of ton of chains that are starting to offer vegan cheese. And actually, it's a coincidence that we're talking about this today because just yesterday, Pizza Hut rolled out the Beyond sausage at their chains across the United States. And so now you can get vegan Beyond sausage from Beyond Meat on your pizza.
Well, the cheese is not
amazing.
vegan though, right?
Right,
Well,
right. So we
vegan
still
though,
we
right?
still have a little bit of
Okay.
time to go on that. But
Still
there are
well,
in most major metropolitan areas there are chains that offer vegan cheese. You know, if you live in Cincinnati, just search vegan pizza Cincinnati. You live in Las Vegas, search vegan pizza Las Vegas, and you will find stuff. Google is your friend, guys.
Well, just so you know, though, Italian people, they don't like that stuff without cheese. They're like, nah. I'm sorry,
Hey,
Paisan.
you know what?
Over here, we're gonna put cheese on it.
Where I went to college in Arizona, I went to Arizona State University. There's a restaurant in Phoenix, Arizona called Pizza Heaven, which is legit heaven. It is so good, and they have vegan cheese as an option. All of the food there can be made vegan, and it is legit amazing. And if you had it, you would not miss cheese for 1 minute.
Okay, I'm gonna take your word for it, brother. Hey, look, mad props, bro. Mad respect to you. You are an awesome individual and a really nice guy. Love to have you on the show again, and we can talk more. Whatever you want to put out there right now, let me know. Let everybody know how they can get in contact with you, how they can follow you, how they can support you. We really love people that are thinking outside the box, and that's why we had you on here today. Mm-hmm. Not just for a certain cause, but because we love people that are passionate about what they do and are actually out there doing it. They're in the trenches, and you are one of those people, my man. So.
For sure, guys. I'm really honored to be on the show, and I think that it takes a lot. I think it takes a lot of strength for someone to say, okay, someone is living in a way that whether I don't agree with them or I am different than them, but I still want to let people hear their side of view. And I think that we as a society have a lot of work to do in that realm, hearing out the other side and engaging in respectful dialogue. And I heard a story earlier about someone who saw someone who had a sign that said "Don't eat meat," and they tried engaging with this person, and this person just yelled at them. And that is the exact attitude that I work against. I do not like the idea that we need to shame people. We are all in this together, and essentially we all agree already. Again, it is not trying to get some new radical worldview out there. It's simply aligning your behavior in a way that matches these ethics that you already have. It's that simple. And so for you guys to have me on and to speak to your audience means a great deal to me. And I was super stoked to be able to talk to your audience. Talking to non-vegans is my favorite thing to do in the world. So audience, I am super appreciative of your time today and hearing me out. Should anybody want to get in contact with me, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram. My handle is John Oberg, JOHN OBERG. And on Facebook, it's John Oberg Official. So would love to stay in contact with everybody. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Really enjoyed being on the show.
Thank you so much for coming, John. You were a great guest. And yeah, dude, I mean, you gave me too much to think about. My brain's kind of spinning a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
It was great having you, John. Before we go, real quick, let's do a couple of little quick things so that we could cut them up and slice them up and throw them out there. How'd you get into powerlifting?
I got into powerlifting because I, for one, hadn't taken my fitness seriously for a long, long time. And I thought, you know what? I think that it's time to change. And this was about 4 years ago. And so I started lifting weights, and I found that powerlifting was the most effective, efficient way to get stronger and bigger. And it's important for me to kind of break vegan stereotypes. we talked earlier about the stereotype of vegan activists just yelling at you. I try to break that stereotype. But then when it comes to fitness, I try to show that vegans can be strong and can be big, and they don't need to be these frail, skinny people that people have thought of as vegans for a long time.
Right. I remember the line that Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone, and it was about them breaking out of some kind of prison
break,
and they get into a fight. No, is that what it was?
It's like prison
break
break, or
anyway,
unescapable or some crap like that. Yeah, it's like the world's most unescapable prison or something like that.
Something to escape, I think. Yeah. Anyways, you can look it up for yourself. Arnold and Stallone in the movie, and they had that little thing back and forth back when they were super popular. But Arnold gets hit by Stallone, and at one point he turns around after he punches him, and he goes, "You hit like a vegetarian." You know what I mean? So it's basically like what you were saying, like. A lot of people consider that vegans and vegetarians are going to be weak people. So it's kind of interesting to run into a power lifter or even a bodybuilder that's full-blown vegan and doing really well.
Well, Ralph, it's funny you bring that up because Arnold Schwarzenegger is now actually a meat reducer. He actually tells people to eat less meat, and he's actually featured in the Game Changers, that incredible film I talked about earlier. It's on Netflix, that shows that you can be a strong powerlifter or bodybuilder or whatever your fitness niche is on a plant-based diet.
Yeah, there is definitely absolute cause for, like you just said, to immediately be a meat reducer if you're not going to stop altogether right off the bat. Absolutely. And then just work for the better. Because like you said, at the end of the day, if you're worried about any form of hurting any kind of animal, why would you continue? And there are
exactly.
Would you? I don't know enough about the farming industry. Are there really good resources for non-factory farming meat sources? Like, is it just right off the bat you're screwed?
That's a great question, and the answer is that choosing vegan food is the much better option. So for one, I think there's a lot of people out there who hear the argument for veganism and they say, okay, you know what, that makes sense. But I'm going to go a little bit lighter. I'm going to try and eat non-factory farm meat. And I cannot tell you how many people tell me, oh, I don't eat meat from factory farms. Well, guys, 99% of meat and dairy and eggs come from factory farms. So I don't know where you're getting your meat, but it's not actually not coming from factory farms, because it definitely is. And so of the non-factory farms out there, animals still suffer, and animals are still victims. They may suffer a little bit less, which is obviously less suffering is better than a lot of suffering, but they're still suffering to a certain degree, degree that I guarantee you would be uncomfortable with.
But free range farms?
So farms that are like free range, but unfortunately most of the stuff is just marketing terms. And they're not actually applying to the real treatment of these animals. Like, for example, you can say free range or like access to outdoors. If you have a barn full of 30,000 chickens and a square hole in the wall this big that allows them to go out to some 10 feet of like muddy pasture, and they can get away with calling that
30,000 chickens in the 10-foot pasture is free range.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's not cool.
You can call something organic, and you know what that applies to? Just the feed that they're given, not to the treatment. So, fortunately, guys, in today's world, it is cheaper to eat vegan food than to try to find non-factory farm meat. It's more accessible. So we talked about accessibility earlier. It is a hell of a lot easier to find vegan food than it is to find non-factory farm meat.
Where do you generally shop?
And it's healthier, of course. It's also healthier to eat to eat plant-based food rather than non-factory farm meat. So you really have no case to be made to try and find non-factory farm meat. And then lastly, I want to say that if you're choosing vegan food, you can be 100% sure that that food was not treated inhumanely because it's made from plants, not animals. You can never actually be sure how farm animals being treated, even if it says organic, free range, whatever.
Right.
But you can be sure that it's humane if it comes from plants.
Makes sense. John, thank you so much for coming on, brother. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, great being on, guys. Yeah, this has been super fun, and I look forward to staying connected. And yeah, please let me know when it's up and everything. And
yeah, we'll let you know. We're looking forward to you maybe sharing it with your people. So
for sure.
We really should. I mean, you're absolutely right. People need to come together and stop being so pissy at each other about stuff like this. It really does better for that to happen. So everybody out there, go follow John. Go touch, connect, comment. If you have questions, ship them his way, ship them our way. We're going to keep going with this. Until next time, people, thanks for showing up. John, thank you.
John, thanks, brother. Appreciate having you on, bro.
We will catch you guys
next time.
Thank you, brother.
All right, John. We'll talk to you soon, bro.
Yeah.